Understanding your child's senses, a practical approach to daily living. Paediatric Occupational Therapy, NHS Grampian. Our aim is to educate and provide advice on the different sensory systems. We hope to increase your confidence in recognising and self-managing your child's sensory challenges. Everyone has a sensory system. Sensory processing is how our brains make sense of the information we get from our senses. Our sensory systems take in information, and that information travels to our brains so that we can understand it. Then our brains tell our bodies how to respond. Sometimes we have sensory preferences which impact on our abilities to engage in our day-to-day activities. Some children might need a bit of help to process sensory information in order to react appropriately. Sometimes our sensory preferences cause us to get stuck. Getting stuck might mean feeling overwhelmed, having a hard time paying attention, feeling sleepy or feeling fidgety. We might get stuck when we get too much sensory information or when we aren't getting enough sensory information to keep our bodies and minds calm and alert. You can think of each of your sensory systems like a cup. Water is the type of sensory input, and if you're over-responsive, it's like a tiny cup which only needs a small amount of sensory input to overflow. But if you're under-responsive, you can keep adding water to a big cup, but it never gets full. Ideally, you want your cup to be full, but not to overflow. There are things we can do to help find a just right feeling where we can listen, pay attention, play with our friends, and engage in our day-to-day tasks. We all have different voices, hair colours, thoughts and opinions, and each of us has our own unique sensory makeup too. We all have our favourite smells, tastes and activities that fit with our sensory systems. These are our sensory preferences. Take a moment to consider your own sensory preferences. What things do you like the feeling of or the smell of? Do you find it difficult to sit still in a meeting? Do you bite your nails or chew chewing gum when you're trying to concentrate? We asked all the occupational therapists in our service what their sensory preferences were, and some examples that we got from them were: I bite and pick my fingernails constantly if I need to focus. I can't stand the feel of nylon fabrics, and after touching nylon I have to lick or wet my fingers afterwards. If I'm required to focus or pay attention, I constantly fidget all the time. Other people have said they had to watch TV in bed to be able to fall asleep. Some people can't tolerate wearing socks that go past their ankles. Others need to chew chewing gum when they're driving in order to help them concentrate. Somebody mentioned that they gag when they're brushing their teeth unless they're using an electric toothbrush, and somebody else mentioned they couldn't stand the feeling of labels and seams. Our sensory preferences can change depending on the time of the day, our mood, how much sleep we've had, or if we're sick or are generally unwell, and for lots of other reasons. It is important for us to highlight that sensory challenges cannot be fixed. Instead, strategies are required to reduce the impact of these sensory challenges on daily activities. There are 3 different routes for learning to cope with challenging sensory input. The first one being avoidance. Sometimes we can avoid certain stimuli we don't like. For example, the feeling of cotton wool. We can generally get through life without touching it. Tolerance would be another route. Sometimes there is a stimuli we can't avoid in life. For example, the noise of hand dryers. In this case, a gradual build-up to the noise or using sensory stories to help your child understand the information they're receiving can help them build up a tolerance for being able to cope. The third route would be using strategies or grounding, and this would mean using the other sensory systems to reduce the focus on the challenging input. We will learn more about this in the next few slides. We're now going to individually discuss each of the senses, starting with touch. The touch system is how we interpret the information we get from the receptors in our skin. As a general rule, deep touch, for example a tight hug, is calming and can be used to counteract any negative feelings from light touch tasks such as hair falling against your skin when you're getting your hair cut. Some of the issues that might be seen in a child with touch processing challenges could be: touch could be perceived as painful and uncomfortable. The child might dislike hair care and getting their nails cut. They may be irritated by clothes textures, labels and seams. They may avoid messy hands and messy play. They may dislike unexpected touch and find difficulty standing in line or close to others. If you remember the general rule about light touch being alerting and deep touch being calming, it can help when thinking of strategies to help your child. Some strategies might be warning a child if you're going to touch them, providing deep pressure massage of the child's scalp or nail bed prior to hair or nail cuts, allow the child to complete self-care activities themselves to allow them to regulate their sensitivity. Allowing a child to stand at the beginning or the end of the line in school could be helpful, and trial using different textured fidget toys. Encouraging your child to participate in messy play with lots of different textures could be useful, as well as trialling weighted blankets, weighted lap pads, weighted toys or compression style clothing. Opportunities for safe rough and tumble play could also be helpful. We're now moving on to auditory system. The auditory system is your sense of hearing. Some of these issues may be seen in a child with auditory processing challenges. You may see them withdrawing from social situations such as parties. They may get upset or agitated when there are loud noises, or they may seek out and enjoy crowded and noisy environments. The child may not acknowledge or react to some sounds, or may have difficulties following simple verbal instructions. You may also see difficulty filtering out some sounds which can impact on concentration, or children making their own noise by humming or clicking. They may be able to hear noises that other people are unable to hear, such as a dripping tap or the hum of a fridge in the background. Strategies that might be useful would be preparing the child for noises such as the school bell or alarms. You might also want to try sensory stories. This should help reduce meltdowns from unexpected noise. Consider using ear defenders in noisy environments, and consider using earphones with music to reduce the stressful external noise in places such as the supermarket. Where possible, reduce any external noise, for example, closing the windows and doors, and consider the child's position in the room, for example, sitting at the edge of a classroom, not in the middle, so they're not surrounded by noise. It would be useful to gain the child's visual attention before giving them verbal information, and limit the amount of verbal information you give at one time. When giving instructions to get ready in the morning, give them one step at a time. For example, put on your pants and then put on your t-shirt in a second instruction. Use visual cues to back up the verbal information, such as the use of visual timetables. We're now going to go on to visual system, the visual system being your sense of sight. Some of these issues might be seen in a child with visual processing challenges. Avoiding bright or artificial lights is squinting even when inside. There might be difficulties with depth perception, for example falling off curbs, misjudging steps and difficulties with ball skills. They might look closely at objects or people, like they're staring. They might become upset or agitated in environments such as supermarkets with lots of bright colours and lights. They might find difficulties locating objects in a busy environment, for example, trying to find their jacket in amongst all the jackets in the cloakroom. There could be difficulties copying off the board due to not being able to organise and remember the visual input from the board to transfer it onto paper. And they may not notice fine details in pictures or writing. Strategies to help visual issues would be turning off unnecessary lights, considering the use of sunglasses or caps to shelter their eyes from bright lights. Consider using blackout curtains or a blackout tent to provide your child with the opportunity to block out visual stimuli if they're overwhelmed. Reduce any clutter in their room or their classroom at school. Consider the decorations on the wall. Lighter and paler colours are generally less stimulating. It might be helpful to highlight or underline important visual information to help them filter out the relevant information on the page. Using lots of visual clues could be helpful. Make sure you have a visual attention before giving an instruction. Consider using light-up toys, lava lamps or egg timers to provide additional visual information. It's also important to ensure the child is as close to the source of the visual information as possible, for example, near to the TV or the board at school. We're moving on to the vestibular system. This system tells you where you are in space. It helps you keep your balance and feel safe when you're climbing, jumping, spinning, or upside down. Some of the issues that might be seen in a child with vestibular processing challenges would be getting travel sick on a journey, avoiding climbing, jumping, or walking along uneven ground, rocking on their chair or when sitting on the floor, or hanging upside down off furniture. They may dislike activities which involve their feet being off the floor or their head not being in an upright position. There may be difficulties coordinating both sides of the body, and there may be a fear of falling or fear of heights. Therefore, children dislike exploring playground equipment. Strategies in this area would be to use calming, deep pressure if overwhelmed. For example, trial a weighted blanket, weighted lap pads, toys, or the compression style clothing. It would be useful to ensure the child has regular movement break opportunities throughout their day to help regulate their arousal levels. Trialling a dynamic cushion to provide subtle movement feedback during seated tasks might be helpful. Encourage but do not force activities that involve changing head position and taking their feet off the ground. Fidget toys to give the child subtle movement to help them concentrate might be useful, as well as encourage lots of safe rough and tumble play, such as playing with cushions, pillows at home, or going to a soft play area. Activities such as swinging, rocking horse or roundabout should be gently encouraged but not forced. Proprioceptive processing. You get information from your joints and muscles about your body's movements and about the movements of your body parts, and this is called proprioception. Some of the issues that may be seen in a child with proprioceptive processing challenges might be bumping into people and furniture, standing very close to others and lacking awareness of personal space, difficulties with navigating around a busy room or bumping into door frames, appearing clumsy generally, having some difficulties with timing movements during ball skills tasks. Some strategies to help this area to be considered could be position furniture around the edge of the room to allow for easier navigation, trial a weighted product or compression style clothing to provide deep pressure feedback to help your child know where their body is in space. Encourage lots of safe rough and tumble play, and encourage activities such as playing on a trampoline. Visual clues for positioning in a room might be helpful, for example, a coloured mat to sit on during floor time at school. Oral processing. Your oral system is your sense of taste, but your mouth also takes in information about textures, resistance and temperature. Some of these issues may be seen in a child with oral processing challenges, such as mouthing and chewing non-food items, for example toys, pencils, clothing and furniture, avoiding certain textures of food, gagging during toothbrushing, struggling with strong flavours, for example minty toothpaste, and chewing fingernails. Useful strategies could be trial unflavoured non-foaming toothpaste if this is an issue, or also trial an electric or a different style of toothbrush, for example one with curved bristles or a silicone finger toothbrush. You could encourage your child to play blowing games, for example blowing bubbles or blow painting with a straw. Encourage your child to drink from a water bottle with a sports cap top or through a swirly straw. And you could provide your child with non-toxic toys and jewellery that are designed to be chewed safely. And you could try crunchy, chewy or sour snacks. The olfactory system is your sense of smell. It helps us identify whether a smell is pleasant or not. Some of these issues might be seen in a child with olfactory processing challenges. Some children become agitated or frustrated around certain smells, such as highly fragrant laundry detergent. Or they may avoid certain particular smells, such as going to the school canteen for lunch. Some children would enjoy strong smells, such as petrol, curry and extra strong mints. and you may see children that would sniff everything, both food and non-food items, as a means of exploring something new. They may gag on certain smells in the home, such as cooking smells. Some useful strategies may be to involve the child in food preparation to help them build up their tolerance to food smells. The use of fragrance-free soaps, cleaning and laundry products might be helpful. It may be worth exploring smells that the child likes, such as lavender, to counteract the smells they dislike. Scented jewellery or toys that use essential oils or solid perfumes might be worth trialling also, as well as neutraliser scent diffusers. Although we've looked at those senses independently, these senses don't function independently. And even to complete simple tasks, all of your sensory systems are having to work together. Imagine how your senses work together when you're peeling and eating an orange. You would use your vision to recognise that it's an orange. You would use your sense of smell to recognise the juice of the orange. You would use your touch system to feel the texture of the orange skin. You would hear the noise of the orange skin being peeled back. And you would use your proprioceptive system to know where your mouth is without having to look and how hard to bite down to chew a piece of the orange. And finally, you would get to taste your orange and hopefully it would taste good. Hopefully you will now feel confident and able to take this information and relate it to your own child. Thank you. We appreciate that this is a long presentation with a lot of information. You could choose to share this with other family members, or if you're looking for a shorter video, there is a sensory video available on the NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde Kids website. They also have a sensory questionnaire which you can complete to gain an individualised advice and guidance about how to support your child.